how do we choose our IEP goals? Yes, we know student deficits get in the way, but how are we actually taking and breaking down all of our students' deficits and what they need from us so that we can create the best possible IEP goals for our students? So, if you're looking for more ways to kind of flesh out what you are creating for your IEP goals, this is here. I'm going to try to keep this short, sweet, to the point. Some of the things that I consider when I am looking at all of the things in students when I'm writing their new IEP goals. So, of course, the first thing I look at is any deficits, anything that I've seen in this past year that they've really struggled with, that they really aren't getting the support that they need. Maybe they need some extra help. Maybe they need an accommodation to do something. So I'm looking at those deficits first and foremost. And where am I looking at? It's looking like anything we've taught in class, anything that they are learning, like learning standards. And then obviously from those present levels, if there's deficits from a present levels, there's probably some assessment tied to that. If you were here last month, you listened to me talk all about assessments. And so we talked about the VB map, the ABLES, the AFLs, Brigance, and we looked at all of those assessments to determine if that was an assessment you could use for your students. If you want to go back and watch that replay, that is still on my pages, or just let me know and I can help you find that link. So yes, those present levels, obviously that's where we're finding a lot of our IEP goals from. And we love that, right? We're so appreciative of any assessments that we give our students. So the next part that I really want you to look at is, of course, student deficits is a big part of it. But beyond that, we want to make sure that parent input is heard too. I know our parents are key components to the IEP process. So we want to make sure that we want to include our students and their parents in the process of what do they want to work on? What are they seeing as a deficit? Maybe it's getting dressed in the morning and you didn't realize that was a deficit at home because you don't do that at school. The students don't really get dressed at school. But maybe the parent input can give you something to support you in creating any IEP goals that would be helpful for you to hear. So again, asking the parents, if you need a form for parent input, I do have a parent input form I think it's in my Facebook group. So make sure you find my Facebook group. It's Full SPED Ahead Support. If you're not already there, there is a present level or a parent input help there. The blog post that went out this week does have a present level template if you're looking for some help with your present levels too. So just help there overall. So then beyond that, something I always ask myself is, does this relate to the student's life? Does this relate to their independent functioning and being a part of the community, being able to navigate their own life? Is that a factor in deciding what we want to use for this goal? So if it is relating to setting an alarm, being organized, that type of thing, yes, then we do want them to have that goal that could be a little bit more functional to their everyday life. Of course, that is super important. So again, we're looking at the deficits, any present levels, also kind of like lumped together as the same thing. You are looking at parent input to determine IEP goals. And then you are looking, does it relate to their life of like beyond schooling, beyond any educational system? We want to make sure that it is related to them personally. This is going to help them be more independent, help with their executive functioning, those types of things. Then there's two more things that I want to look at, and then I'll do a recap again. If you're beyond all of that and you're like, I have nothing, look at the state standards. State standards are great to look at, whether your student is below grade level or currently at grade level. We want to make sure that we are looking at those state standards to determine if this is an IEP goal that is related to that, because a lot of states, I can't say all, but a lot of states do have goals that need to be related to standards. So as you are pulling that information, you need to make sure that there's a goal that relates to it. So standards are a good place to go. So if they're in 8th grade, you might want to look at 9th grade standards for next year to make sure that they're going to be able to access those standards. The last one is one of my favorites that I feel like sometimes does get forgotten. So I spent a lot of my time in middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But as I was creating the 8th graders' goals for the following year, I would talk to the next teacher. By talking to the next teacher, I was able to determine, is this goal appropriate for that next program? So we want to make sure that we are building goals that the next teacher can acquire and not roll their eyes at. That is actually appropriate for their programming, actually appropriate for what that teacher is planning to do. So talking with that next teacher can be really, really helpful too. If you're keeping your kid, hopefully you can create goals that are appropriate for you too. So again, I'm just going to do a quick recap and then I'm done here. Any deficits we are looking at for sure. We want to make sure that IEP goals are created based on deficits or the present levels, and we're seeing those deficits from those. And then beyond that, we're talking to the parents. Is there anything that's happening at home that you want to see more of? That maybe they're seeing some deficits at home or just independent life. Then is it related to life, right? We want to make sure that it is mostly related to them being an adult and growing up, is independently functioning as they can. And then beyond that, we're looking at standards, any state standards that the student is still missing and not being able to partake in just yet, any state standards that they need to access. And then the last one is talking to the next teacher. If you are going to send them on to a different school or a different classroom, we do want to make sure that we are talking to the teacher to make sure that IEP goals are being created as effectively as possible. So that was my quick wrap up. I hope this was helpful for you to hear. If you have any questions, you're welcome to comment. But yeah, see ya.